This is a story of industrial espionage, strategic gambles, and a super helicopter that, despite its initial failure, unexpectedly reemerged across the Pacific. On August 21st, 2025, several grainy but striking photos lit up the Chinese internet. Twin coaxial rotors stacked above the fuselage, a pusher propeller at the tail pointing forward like a dagger, an ultra-futuristic high-speed helicopter seen in low-altitude test flights. But this was no original design. U.S. defense outlet The War Zone put it bluntly. This was almost a direct clone of the S-97 Raider. From the tadpole-shaped fuselage to the landing gear configuration, every detail looked as though it had been lifted straight from Sikorsky's Connecticut factory. The timing was ironic. Just 18 months earlier, on February 8, 2024, the U.S. Army had ended the Raider's military prospects. The FARA program was cancelled. Washington decided that costly manned reconnaissance helicopters were obsolete. So, why is a design abandoned by the U.S. military being rapidly resurrected in China? Is Beijing chasing a proven dead end, or has it spotted a battlefield gap Washington overlooked? Today, we break down this act of technological reanimation. Why is it fast? Why did America drop it? Why did China pick it up? And will this street-fighting dagger rewrite the rules in the Taiwan Strait, or snap as a broken blade in its wielder's hand? 1. Historical inertia and crossing uncharted waters by stepping on America's stone. First, we must understand the core logic of China's weapons development. Despite forceful anti-American propaganda, inside its defense industry there is an unwritten rule: cross uncharted waters by using America's stepping stones. Following the path the U.S. took is the lowest risk, most efficient way to catch up. The Z-20 helicopter is the textbook case. In the 1980s, China imported the American S-70C Black Hawk. On the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau, the Black Hawk's performance far outstripped Russian models of the era, leaving a deep impression on China's People's Liberation Army. China then spent 3 decades absorbing the technology and eventually produced the Z-20. The Z-20 followed the replicate and improve path. It used a proven, mature platform as its base, upgrading it with modern avionics and domestic engines, such as a 5-blade rotor. This allowed China to quickly address a capability gap. But cloning the S-97 is a very different case. The Raider was experimental, cutting-edge, and high-risk, never fielded by the U.S. military, and ultimately abandoned. Copying the S-97 signals a new stage in China's defense industry: replicate and leapfrog. No longer satisfied with trailing current weapons, China is now targeting next-generation technology. It is a high-risk, high-reward gamble. Why take such a risk? The answer lies in the helicopter's revolutionary design. 2. The speed revolution. Breaking through with rigid, coaxial technology. Why can't traditional helicopters fly fast? The answer lies in physics. Conventional helicopters rely on a single main rotor and a tail rotor to counteract torque. At high speeds, the rotor can experience retreating blade stall, which limits the helicopter's top speed to around 300 km per hour or 186 miles per hour. To overcome this problem, the coaxial rotor was developed, consisting of 2 counter-rotating rotors that cancel out torque, eliminating the need for a tail rotor. This concept was first widely implemented by the Soviet-Russian Kamov Design Bureau and seen in helicopters like the Ka-52. But Russia took what seemed the simpler path: flexible, hinged coaxial systems. Their designs used complex mechanical hinges to allow blades wide freedom of movement. This created fatal flaws. First, it introduced severe vibration. Countless videos from the Ukraine battlefield show Ka-52s shuddering violently under full payload, degrading weapon accuracy and flight safety. The second flaw was rotor strike. During sharp maneuvers, upper and lower rotors risk collision. According to Russia's official investigation report, in June 1998, a Ka-50 prototype crashed for precisely this reason. The U.S. Sikorsky chose a harder but more radical path: rigid, hingeless coaxial motors, also known as X2 technology. The heart of X2 lies in its rigid rotor, no hinges, with blades fixed directly to the hub. The result is an extremely compact rotor system with less drag and, most importantly, lightning-fast control response. Moreover, X2 has a pusher propeller at the tail. This allows the coaxial rotors overhead to focus solely on generating lift without needing to tilt the fuselage for speed as in traditional helicopters. The performance gains are dramatic. The Sikorsky S-97 can reach 460 km per hour, or 286 miles per hour, nearly 80% faster than standard helicopters. It can accelerate and decelerate in level flight without pitching the nose. Nicknamed the Knife Fighter, it was built for close combat in complex terrain. 3. Strategic divergence. America abandons the design while China revives it. So, if X-2 technology is so advanced, why did the US military ultimately abandon it? Does that prove the concept is a dead end? The answer is no. The US didn't stop it because the technology failed, but because strategic needs changed and better options emerged. In the Future Long-Range Assault Aircraft (FLRAA) competition to replace the Black Hawk, Sikorsky's coaxial Defiant was defeated by Bell's V-280 Valor tiltrotor. The V-280 was simply a better match for American needs, nearly 600 kilometers per hour, or 373 miles per hour, and a combat radius of more than 1,400 kilometers. With Washington's strategic focus shifting to the Indo-Pacific, range and speed trump everything. The US wanted a platform that could sprint across oceans and strike deep. The bigger blow came in February 2024, when the FARA program was cancelled. Army leaders, drawing on lessons from Ukraine, concluded that aerial reconnaissance had fundamentally evolved. In drone-dominated battlefields, deploying costly manned helicopters for reconnaissance was no longer an efficient use of resources. The crux is this: the US Army needed a long-range runner like the V-280, so it abandoned the knife fighter Raider X. What was discarded wasn't the technology, but the mission profile itself. That opened a clear opportunity for Beijing. China's strategic focus lies on the Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea. Tight, close-range theaters. In these environments, long-range capability is less critical than speed and low-altitude maneuverability. In a dense air defense setting, a platform that can fly nearly 500 kilometers per hour just above the treetops provides significant tactical advantage. It could perform armed reconnaissance, inserting special forces, or executing precision strikes. Simply put, America canceled the Raider because it wasn't suited for global conflict. China revived it because it's tailor-made for a regional war. The PLA's decision to clone the S-97 wasn't blind imitation, but a calculated act of strategic opportunism. Imagine it's 4 a.m., and several high-speed coaxial helicopters skim just above the sea, concealed by the horizon and morning fog. They reach key targets before enemy radars can react: Taiwan's Hengshan Military Command Center, Taipei's Songshan Runway, and long-range radar installations. Their mission isn't to hold territory, but to disrupt and neutralize critical nodes, opening a brief window for follow-on forces to act. In the tight, congested waters of the Taiwan Strait, the knife fighter delivers a more immediate tactical impact than a long-range platform. This helps explain Beijing's choice to revive a design that Washington shelved for strategic reasons. 4. Dual-track ambition, copying America's original blueprint. China's ambitions don't stop here. Almost simultaneously with the coaxial prototype's appearance, August 18, 2025, a separate prototype emerged, a Chinese-built crewed tilt-rotor aircraft, believed by observers to be the MV-75. This shows clearly that China is pursuing a dual-track strategy for next-generation rotorcraft, advancing both a high-maneuver coaxial compound design and a long-range tilt-rotor platform. Why take two paths? Chinese military enthusiasts are blunt, because the country's technological base is still weak. To avoid betting on the wrong option, it must spread its efforts wide and learn through trial and error. Current industrial capacity and financial resources are sufficient to sustain such costly dual-track testing. More interestingly, this dual-track effort mirrors the original U.S. Future vertical lift blueprint, to build a family of next-generation rotorcraft tailored to different mission needs. Even though the U.S. scaled back the program and canceled FARA, China appears ready to carry it through in full: tilt rotors for long-range assault and coaxial compounds for frontline attack. If successful, by the 2030s, China could field a highly comprehensive vertical combat system. 5. Engineering barriers, the black boxes that cannot be copied. But lofty blueprints cannot hide engineering reality. Building an aircraft that looks similar is relatively easy. Mastering the S-97's core technologies is exceptionally harder. Rigid coaxial compounds are the Mount Everest of helicopter engineering. Can China cross this technological barrier? Aerodynamics can be copied, but the internal black boxes that determine performance and reliability cannot be reverse engineered from photos. China must overcome 4 critical engineering peaks. Peak 1. The main gearbox, the crown of mechanical engineering. This is the system's heart and its most difficult challenge. It must split high engine power across two counter-rotating main drive shafts and one tail-pusher shaft with a clutch mechanism. Its gears must withstand extreme stresses, contact pressure, root fatigue, micropitting, heat lubrication coupling, and redundant cooling. It represents the pinnacle of mechanical engineering. Sikorsky has decades of experience in this field. China's capabilities remain uncertain. Public patents show research institutes such as Xi'an University of Technology exploring advanced designs like face gears, with patents authorized in 2024. But the gap between lab designs and operational products is vast. Put simply, moving from Russia's flexible coaxial to America's rigid coaxial is like asking a bicycle mechanic to perform heart surgery. At high torque and speed, even tiny mismatches in load distribution, surface stress, heat treatment, or cooling can trigger catastrophic failure. The question is not whether it can fly, but how long before it fails. Peak 2. Rigid rotors and materials. Rigid rotors eliminate hinges, meaning the blade root and hub must endure immense bending and fatigue loads. This demands extreme precision in composite blade design and manufacturing. Even tiny defects can cause catastrophic failure. Peak 3. Active vibration control, AVC. Rigid rotors channel heavy vibrations directly into the fuselage. Without effective active vibration control, flight is unsustainable. AVC requires precision sensors, fast processors, and complex control algorithms, which are core Sikorsky patents. Peak 4. Fly-by-wire and flight control laws. Such complex aircraft require highly precise fly-by-wire systems. The core challenge lies in the control software, real-time coordination of the main rotors and tail propeller. This is critical intellectual property and cannot be copied. You can copy the shape of a sword, but not the steel that forged it, or the skill of the swordsman who wields it. For China's Raider copy, the real test lies in mastering these unseen inner strengths. 6. Unresolved challenge, the engine bottleneck. Beyond these four peaks lies a deeper, long-standing bottleneck for China's aviation industry: engines. Power is the prerequisite for speed. A helicopter in the S-97's weight class, about 5 to 6 tons, requires a turboshaft engine delivering 2,600 to 3,000 horsepower. The U.S. selected the new 3,000 horsepower T901 for the Raider. By contrast, China's current turboshaft lineup shows a clear gap. Its mainstay, the WZ-10, which is used on the Z-20, produces about 2,100 horsepower, insufficient and too heavy for an S-97 class airframe. The Franco-Chinese WZ-16 falls in a similar range. This means China's prototype would need a brand new, advanced turboshaft engine, one not yet publicly acknowledged. No information confirms such an engine exists. For now, the prototype is likely flying with a limited stopgap engine. This shortfall could leave the futuristic-looking helicopter with a shell but no core. 7. Conclusion. The quiet contest has just begun. The emergence of China's copy of the Raider is one of the most striking events in the Asia-Pacific arms race of 2025. It is more than just a new weapon. It's a strategic signal with far-reaching implications. It marks a new stage in U.S.-China military technology competition. More importantly, Beijing is exploiting Taiwan Strait conditions to capture the gaps left by America's shifts in budget and strategy. What the U.S. discards, China treasures. What the U.S. pauses, China accelerates. History is blunt. In the mid-19th century, during the late Qing dynasty, China could purchase ironclad battleships like the Dingyuan and Zhenyuan, but it lacked the modern industrial base and institutional framework needed to support them. These steel giants became floating coffins at sea. Today is no different. Shapes can be copied, but not the soul. You can sketch the S-97's outline, but its soul lies in materials, transmissions, flight controls, and verification systems. Without that foundation, even the most advanced warship remains a fragile luxury. The true contest isn't fought over the Taiwan Strait. It's waged in workshops and foundries. For now, China has won the first phase, repaving a road the U.S. has paused, proving it can build and fly. That is an existential victory, not a capability victory. The US rejected Farah's mission profile, not the physics of X-2. Beijing has claimed the right to validate the technology, but has not yet crossed the barriers of engines, gearboxes, AVC, or flight controls, let alone reliability, maintainability, and mass production. Beijing's weapon is speed, short decision chains, high risk tolerance, and engineers working around the clock. If the West remains mired in perfect requirement sheets and decade-long procurement cycles, it will lose on time. China's approach is not to build a better raider, but to act on three verbs: accelerate, downgrade, and ally. Accelerate, to make 90% maturity, small batch deployment the norm, using rapid iteration to close on combat readiness. Downgrade, deploy drone swarms, cheap sensors, electronic warfare, and soft kill systems to drag the opponent's costly helicopters into a cost trap. Ally, extend the industrial chain to partners, extend capacity, co-develop and leverage alliance speed to offset the inertia of any single nation. In short, simply having assets does not equal true capability. If the West continues to rely on procedural justice while neglecting the pace of delivery, it risks ceding the initiative to its rival. But if it can reset the rules of cost and timing through accelerated competition, China's speed could turn into a liability, burning out faster than expected. This high-stakes gamble over advanced rotorcraft is far from settled. The outcome hinges on whether China can break through the black boxes of its toughest industrial challenges and deliver systems that endure and scale. When this ghostly clone cuts across China's skies, it does not proclaim victory. It instead signals that Beijing has put this card on the table. The coming contest in air power will test more than blueprints. It will measure the capacity and the will of nations to turn those designs into reliable, reproducible machines of war.